This is the second episode in a special series of The Producers. Agriculture 2023 celebrates the farmers and produce of Northern Tasmania. In 5 conversations, we celebrate farmers caring for both land and community, a cattle farmer, cheesemaker, veggie growers, and a winemaker. Along the way, you'll hear how strong local food systems and ethical farming do much more than create delicious food. They also benefit the farmers themselves, people who enjoy food at home and in restaurants, and the earth that we all share.
You can't get cows to force them to do what they don't want to do. And I'll know if anyone's treating any of our cattle badly by the way they react around people. Your cows will tell you what you need to know if you take the time to listen. Yeah.
This is The Producers. I'm Dani Valent. Grass, cow, you. That's the approach at Ashgrove, where family-owned paddock-to-plate dairy delights are nurtured with full transparency and a sense of responsibility to land, animal and local Tasmanians.
My name's Paul Bennett. I'm chairman of Ashgrove Cheese and manager of Ashgrove Farms. We're a family dairy farming company in Northern Tasmania. We run a lot of dairy cows. We milk them and value add our milk into cheese, butter and all dairy products. We've also got a dairy door, a cafe, tourism facility that we built in the middle of COVID lockdown, and we're quite proud of that. It was really an extension of a factory outlet shop we had, but everyone was coming into it. It was very popular on the highway, but most people these days are on the food trail expect something a little better than a factory outlet these days. Yeah. My grandfather came here in 1908, I think, and then he had 3 sons, and they left school very early, sort of 15, 16s, worked hard, bought neighbouring properties. My Uncle Gerald left the family business with his own farms, and my father John and my Uncle Michael continued on with their wives into what is the Ashgrove Farms Partnership. We worked hard. We just gradually bought neighbouring properties as they arose, and the opportunity arose. And then in 1993, we started actually making cheese, but 5 years before that, the decision was made to go and do value adding, and so we went and bought everything second hand. My father was a frustrated builder, I think, in another life. We went and bought the old Ross Arden tin mine and recycled the sheds into that, what was become our factory and our main dairy farm here, that we actually built ourselves, dug the holes on, welded the steel trusses up. I personally screwed the roof on the factory without any safety harnesses or anything in those days, because I was the most expendable member of the family, but we literally dug the holes, mixed the concrete by hand and put the factory together by that way. We had no cheese expertise. My cousin Jane, my Uncle Michael's daughter, we sent to Europe, to England to learn how to make cheese, and she came back and brought those skills into the family business. Well, I came back first of all and joined my father and my uncle and their wives, my mother and my aunt, in the Ashgrove Farm Partnership in the late 80s. Both my father and my uncle had travelled extensively overseas and had decided there was no money in bulk commodity exports, and at that stage Tasmanian dairy farmers, we were the lowest paid dairy farmers in the world, and that's an actual statistic that's still bears fruit sometimes in this day and age, and we thought if we're going to go broke, we might as well have a good go at it and go broke on our own terms. So they had seen the food movement in Europe, and the value that sort of farmhouse cheeses had over there, and thought, well, we could do that here in Tasmania. We worked exceptionally hard. We weren't gifted this farm. My father, my uncle and my grandfather bought all the land around us. We worked exceptionally hard. I guess we saw work as play, and we didn't have much money at all. So it's been a long journey to get where we have, and there's been a lot of people contributed along the way. My cousins, my sisters, we all learnt to do all those jobs. I think we were seen as free labour from a young age, whether it be driving tractors, working cattle, working in shearing sheds, shifting irrigation pipes and crops, we could do it all. I don't think the child labour laws would accept it these days. Yeah, I love the farm and the cattle, and I was good at it, so that's always an attraction. But also times have changed. When I left school in the late 80s, mid 80s, youth unemployment in Tasmania was 60%. And so you didn't have a job, you didn't have career opportunities. People really didn't travel as much as they did or leave the country as people would now if it was such a poor case. So to have a family business to come back to was great, albeit as tough as it was, we didn't know any better. Yeah, so we enjoyed it, made the most of it, yeah.
There's no doubting the hard work and commitment of the Bennett family, but there's something special about the Northern Tassie land they're farming, an advantage they didn't necessarily appreciate when farming was more about inputs and outputs than a relationship with the land.
What's special about this area in Northern Tasmania, and really the whole of Tasmania, is that it's our position in the world. It's a position on the one earth we've got, and it enables us to be able to grow ryegrass and white clover. And when you can bind that with the great soils that Tasmania has, it gives us an unparalleled advantage in a lot of other areas of the world in the nutrient density of our grass, and therefore the nutrient density and the value of our food that comes out of our cows. It's pretty simple. It's to do with our biggest advantage is our climate, our soils and our location in the world. And if you'd have asked me that 30 years ago, I wouldn't have said that, because I think it's a recognition as we've grown and as we've become more educated and more open to new ideas, we realise that how important the soils and the climate have become. I think what has really become more apparent, and scientifically so, is the life that's in our soil. So we actually don't really use insecticides or herbicides. We're using the same fertilisers that my grandfather used. We've gone back to those, which are single superphosphate and lime, and we're now using a lot of compost. We've got an access to a lot of compost that's coming out of the Valent composting works, which collects all the green waste across northern Tasmania. And I think what we have learnt is there's not just one thing in the soil, and probably in the 70s and 80s, we were into a very industrial type of agriculture, and even 90s and that further on, where we focused on nitrogen, we focused on phosphorus, we focused on potassium, and then a few years later we learnt there was a bit of sulphur needed. But they were very major nutrients, and they're very easy to track through the farming system. But what we didn't take note of were the vitamins, the minerals, and all the organic matter, and what that does to the health of the soils and the animals. So, yeah.
Making a product is one thing. Getting it into people's shopping baskets is a whole other journey. Paul talks about his farming family becoming a canny marketing machine as well.
It's been a long journey because it's pretty easy to make, but then you realise that you've got to sell it. And I think a lot of people passionately get into value adding into products, but that's only half the battle. There's a real battle in making sure that product is consistent and of high quality every batch you make, and then you have to evolve with the markets. Not only do you make a product, you then have to sell it. And I think when we first opened our factory shop with great excitement here on the side of the highway, we had one customer for the whole day. So then you had to go down a whole new skills for a farming family, how you learnt to market, how you learnt to sell your product, how we had some hard lessons along the way. It's not only do you have to sell the product, you have to get the money back, because there's a lot of restaurants and a lot of people out there aren't as honest as probably we were as used to in the farming community. So debt collection became a big part of the business, and had some hard lessons learnt there with distributors and that, and then and evolved to the business where it is today, where we employ 120 people. We've got a lot of different product lines, and then that involves new skills, because you then have to learn how to let go of the business and trust other people that aren't family members to manage and help you grow your business into the future. Yeah, when we first started out, we were very much a very small cheese production business. We had the vision, and that was probably my father's vision, to not build a farmer's market scale cheese factory. His vision was to build one that made 300 to 500 tonnes a year. When we did that, we went to the banks to get a loan to build a factory. They wouldn't believe us and made us do a very expensive study, which we've still got in the Australian cheese market, and they came back telling us that the whole Australian specialty cheese market was 6 tonnes. And what were you doing building a factory to make 300 tonnes? But we stuck to our guns because we had a firm belief that if you're only doing a 20 or 30 tonne business, you'll make a living, but you won't make a business. And we see a lot of people do that, start with grace, enthusiasm, make a great product, but after going to the farmer's market every week of your life for 5 years, they tend to give up. And so we had to grow beyond that so that we could sell our produce to the supermarkets, to the independent grocers and all those, because if we didn't do that and we couldn't get to the scale where we could do that, we wouldn't have a business that was sustainable in the long term.
To the untrained eye, it looks like cows in paddocks. But to Paul Bennett, the subtleties of moving cattle from one area to another are a key part of farm management. It's better for the pasture. It's also better for the cows, and therefore the cheese.
Managed grazing, that's my pet topic. Love it. We're lucky enough to do an intensive pasture management course in the 80s, and what I learnt back then was the first course I ever did. My father sent me off. In the Kimberley Hall, we learnt with the Department of Primary Industries here, taught us how to do intensive pasture management, and that was basically grazing the grass in its lifestyle, understanding the grass plant's lifestyle, how it grew, and how if we grazed it at certain times, we maximised our growth and therefore the health of our animals and the productivity of the farms. And that's been really amazing to see how well that has stood up to all the modern concepts that people, and have watched it go around different industries called, block grazing, circular grazing, spell grazing, even regenerative agriculture has a huge amount in common with what we first learnt back then. It means that we really monitor our soils and our grass, and depending on how the grass is growing, we then adapt our cattle's grazing management. So we graze the grass at its optimum time, and then we give it time to recover, and that recovery time is the most important part. And so that what it means is a lot of our pastures are 40, 50 years old. They're thick, they're lush, and they're sustainable, and they'll be another 40 years old before we have to plough them up or do anything, or maybe I never will have to plough some paddocks if we get it right. And it's that sustainability which gives us a profitability. At times over the journey we've been, we'll get salesmen in saying we can get you this grass that'll grow 20% more grass, but only last 2 years. And then I've got to plough the paddock up, or it needs extra chemicals and inputs to sustain it. It's a grass that needs steroids to grow. But we've got grasses that are just as productive, but they're more... they're more forgiving, and they've worked with us, those grasses, for as long as I've been here or longer, so why would you get rid of them?
Everything at Ashgrove relies on cattle, and the more willing and happy they are, the better everything rolls. Paul talks about his cattle, how they're treated, and what that means for his business.
Cattle are really smart, and they're smarter than a lot of people give them credit for. They recognise people, and they recognise if you're there to help them. I was taught by my grandfather how to handle stock, and I love it, just working with them. You can't get cows to force them to do what they don't want to do. Well, you can, but it'd be a terrible day. But if you work with them, like we want cows that are 550, 600 kilos to walk onto our dairy, voluntarily be milked and then walk off. And if we treat them well, they'll do that twice a day or once a day or whatever we've got them on for us. And but I'll know if anyone's treating any of our cattle badly by the way they react around people. And there's a lot of scientific studies saying now cows and sheep can actually recognise faces. And I do know that because if we know we employ a lot of staff, and if we've ever had staff that have been bad-tempered or whatever, your cattle will let you know because they're scared to walk past them. And so your cows will tell you what you need to know if you take the time to listen. Yeah.
There are so many moving parts at Ashgrove, and the seasons and weather all play a part in what's front of mind. What's keeping Paul busy at the moment?
At the moment, we're calving, and we've just had two of the biggest storms you'd have seen the last 2 nights. When you hear sun shining today, it's a bit hard to believe. So the last few days have been, I've been doing night shift. I do the calving of the cows. I really like that. That's where my skills lie, being a midwife to cows, I guess you'd say. And so I track I check them 2 or 3 times during the night, and I finish about probably 12 o'clock, and then we have another couple of guys come in and they get them out of the paddock early in the morning for milking, and they'll check them at 5. So then I'm starting not as early as I used to. I'm getting a bit older now. I used to always start before 5, but now I'm starting about 6, 6:30, 7. So yeah, depending on what the weather and the job is. Now it's a lot about managing staff, teaching staff how to run a dairy farm, and then I'm also around the factory here a lot, helping my cousin Richard if he needs anything, who runs the factory here. So we often meet, he and I, and just have a chat about what we need to do for the day, or what crisis has gone wrong, or what we need to do. So yeah, it's you got to be nimble, I think, because it can be as simple as having a pump go out that supplies water to a farm, or the electricity went out last night on 2 farms, to get the backup generators going for milking this morning, to 12 months ago we had major floods across farms that we had one property isolated with a manager on it. We had another one that we had to get a vet into cattle, and we ended up having to fly them in a chopper. We'd never done that before. We'd never seen floods so big. So you've got to be flexible. So yeah, great day on the farm is probably dealing with cows and not so many people. Yeah, more cows, less people, I say. So yeah. And my dog, I've got a good dog. So yeah. I say that flippantly, but that's often what I enjoy the farm the most is, late at night or early in the morning when I'm checking an irrigator, and there's just those 1 or 2 key people that are on the farm that really know how to run it and contribute to running it. I think that's really, daylight savings. I've got a motorbike, I'll take my dog, I go around the irrigators, around the cattle at, 6 or 8 o'clock after tea, and that's the best time, yeah.
No one does dairy farming because they think it's an easy ride. But how does Paul balance the challenges and the satisfactions of life at Ashgrove? Dairy
farming's always been tough. It's been tough my whole life. I think it's the hardest farming occupation. It's probably the most rewarding one. What's tough now is I think we're a dying breed across the nation, and statistics say that. And so that's tough. What's exciting is we're trying to get a new generation excited about dairying. They're probably not going to put the hours in that my generation did. That's fine. We just have to adapt dairying to suit the younger generation rather than because they're not going to adapt to us. Across the farms, we've got about 20 staff running about 5,500 cows across 5 dairy farms and beef runoff blocks. What we've really been quite exciting is we've got a lot of young women that have come back onto the farm, a lot of young women that are in management positions. It's probably new for the industry. It's probably not so new for us as a family because my aunts, my mother, my sisters, my cousins are surrounded by strong women, and they all contributed along the way. But what is really quite exciting now is we're seeing a lot of young women that are really seeing it as a career choice, a preference, that they really want to work on the environment and that. A lot of them are really great cattle managers, calf managers, young stock managers, because they have a natural empathy, I think, that sometimes blokes don't have. So what that means is we've tried to take the heavy lifting out. Women can do everything blokes can do, except they probably can't lift a 80-kilo calf that's wrestling around in their arms. So we try and have trailers that don't have lifting. We don't have all our milk's now pumped to our calf pens and all that. A lot of our grain delivery's done under automatic with augers. So we've taken that grunt lifting out. But to be honest, it's not just the women. The young blokes aren't going to do it either. So I think for guys who grew up, that, you know, I'm in my mid-50s, that grew up in our age group, it was all manual work across all trades and all industries. And now as we sit here, and I've got more tech in my mobile phone than we had in computers at school. So we're driving tractors with GPS units. We're driving, tractors with self-leveling front-end loaders that, you can pick stuff up with and do stuff. So all that can be mechanised. Can't even say the word. That takes the lifting and the grunt out. It takes a lot of investment in the properties to keep them up to scratch. We get our cattle in with buggies, little buggies instead of motorbikes. That gives people a roof and a windscreen if they're getting up at 3:30 in the morning to get a mob of cows in. Other changes we've made, one of the biggest ones is we milk the cows every 16 hours instead of twice a day, which is a really a great concept. I don't know who invented it, but they need the Nobel Peace Prize, I think. And that means is we milk the cows every 16 hours, it says, instead of twice a day. If we milk the cows twice a day, we're getting them in at 5 in the morning, finish milking at 8 o'clock, and then getting back in 2 in the afternoon. That meant that the cows were leaving the dairy at 8 and coming back at 2. That's not a lot of rest. So, and then they had a massive rest from the afternoon milking through to the morning, and then which was about 16 hours. And someone said, hey, how about we milk them every 16 hours? So the cows get 25% more rest, and they're producing the same amount of milk. And also your staff aren't getting up at the crack of dawn every day. So that's been a real big lift in the sustainability of both your staff and your animals and your farm. So, and that's just a mindset change, something we've learnt as we've gone along.
Ashgrove manages the whole life cycle of cattle, and unlike most dairy farms, Paul Bennett grows out the bobby or boy calves and fattens up some cattle for beef. It's extra work, but it's all about reducing waste and being accountable to a society that demands thoughtful farming practices.
So we're quite proud at Ashgrove on our animal welfare thing, so we do a lot of stuff to set ourselves apart with that. One of them is we rear all our calves. So we use a lot of sex semen, so we breed our own replacement heifers, and they go away. It'll be 2 years before they calve and become a dairy cow. And the contemporaries, the male calves, we're using Angus beef, and there's also some Frisian bulls that we're rearing right out, and we're turning into beef. So the Angus cross ones will make a beautifully, and I would argue, a better quality beef than the straight bred Angus or Herefords or whatever. And then the Frisians, the same, are a great beef product. So we grow those right out, and they're killed, and the Frisians particularly will go to the grinding beef market. They'll be for your mince, your hamburgers, your tacos, your spaghetti bolognese, and the Angus cross beef or short-horn cross beef dairy that we use will be grown out, fattened and grass fattened, and then as good as any other straight animal. So we sell those to the abattoirs, and then they're sold to restaurants or wherever. So so we really like that. We're sort of valuating the whole animal. We're not disposing of a calf at a few days of age. It creates a lot of work, enormous amount of extra work, but I think it's something that I think society expects these days. You can't just have a waste animal. You've got to utilise the whole thing. And if we're going to milk cows, and if we're going to produce milk as dairy farmers, we have to face up to the problem or the opportunity that bobby calves are. So we've hit that head on, and for the last 10 years we haven't produced a bobby calf on this farm. So the last few years when beef prices were high, it was absolutely fantastic. Just at the moment, it's not so good. But the beef market's collapsed right around the country, and everyone's struggling to sell that. And when the beef market collapses, you can't sell dairy cross cattle. They take it even harder. So what we've done is we've actually taken a couple of pens at the feedlot, and we're fattening our own Frisian steers right through to ensure that they're a good product and a saleable product at the end. So currently we've got it's 51 and 198 steers in 2 pens down at the abattoir. So we just sent the first 50 in to JBS, and they were slaughtered the other day. And the quality of the beef is really good. So so we're putting our money where our mouth is, hopefully, so to prove the concept.
Cows make milk. People make cheese. But what sort of cheese is crafted at Ashgrove?
Yeah, so we started making cheese, hard cheeses. We made English-style cheeses. That was our vision to start with. We wanted to make a cheese that people ate every day. So we do cheddar, English Leicester, creamy Lancashire, and variations on those. We've also developed into feta, halloumi, and a few others as the markets dictated, and we listened to what people wanted to eat every day. So we have a full range of those. We have really high value, cloth matured cheddar cheeses that sell for $90, $100 a kilo that are sold at the top end cheesemongers across the country, and we have down to our supermarket grade stuff, which is not a lot different. The difference is the age in which it's matured. And the cloth matured, the really mature cheeses take up to 18 months, 2 years to mature, whereas a supermarket cheese might only be 3 months old. So that's what you're really paying for, is that care and that time taken for the next year, 2 years to let the cheese mature and its flavour develop. And then we're also doing, we got into liquid milk bottling some time ago. We bought a second-hand milk bottling plant at a little place called Bentley, between Lismore and Kyogle, up on the New South Wales-Queensland border. My cousin Richard and I went up and we bought that. We bought it down, and in the off-season, which is now, we put up the milk bottling plant in the back of the factory, and everyone said there's no money in bottling milk. Everyone always says that, and it was right when the milk war started, and we've had a very good reaction from the public, and we've grown the brand now, and we've had to build a bigger factory and automate it all. We're bottling 30% of Tasmanians' branded milk. We're the biggest branded milk bottler in the state. That's not a lot to brag about because we're a very small state, and so it just means we're a reasonable sized goldfish in that pond. And put it in perspective, there's less people in Tasmania than there are in the city of Geelong. So what you find right across the nation, in every region, there is a really paddock to plate small milk bottler started up, and we sort of talked a lot of those, Gippy Milk or Great Ocean Road or Mullaney Milk in Queensland or whatever. And so that's been really good that people have recognised that milk quality and have been really prepared to support their local milk producer. Yeah. So we do cream, which we just won Best Cream in the Nation for, and butter and dried cheese product too. Yeah.
It's one thing to get your product onto supermarket shelves. It's another thing to get it into restaurants. Paul explains the helpful synergies between hospitality and retail, and the way that broader perceptions of food have changed and impacted the community's views on farming.
Chefs and restaurant are always a big part of your marketing. If you can get chefs who at the end of the day are seen as the food authorities in this country to say your product's good, and people eat it at a restaurant when they're out, and then they may see it when they're at the local IGA or the supermarket or driving past and think, oh, I'll have a bit more of that. And that's what we've always just wanted. We put our product out there and invited people to try it, and hopefully they'll like it and might buy it again. The really interesting thing on the whole food journey has been the change for me in the perception. When I came back and joined the farm, we had actively career counsellors at school telling you there was no future in agriculture. When we built a cheese factory, and my cousin Jane and I came back to work in that and were working on the farm building it, it was seen as the most daggy thing a person could do. Like, people made fun of us for it. And it wasn't until MasterChef and that phenomena came along that the whole Australian perception of food changed and it became cool. And I think that's why there's so many young people and young women looking at agriculture now, because they really care about where it comes from and can see that when you're producing a product like we are or any other small producer is doing it, you're actually contributing something to society. Yeah, we've always looked at the markets, looked at what we had in the resources with the farms, and just asked people what they wanted and tried to deliver it. As the business has grown, the pressure's come on a lot more. We're a big part of our local community. We're a big employer in a very small area. So when the market goes up or down, or you don't pay your bills, it really hurts us. And I have to go into the factory or the farm and, put off staff that maybe their kids are going to school with your kids or whatever. So as the business grows, the pressure's grown to you're not just providing an income and a living for your family. We're doing it for 120 families in a regional area which doesn't have a lot of employment. So we're pretty proud of our record there.
One day he's a midwife to a cow in a paddock. Another day he's grappling with the latest demands of a supermarket. With such a varied work life, what does Paul Bennett love about what he does?
Being outside. I'm an outside person. I was taught to fish and hunt by my grandfather. When we had no money, it was a big part of what we ate, was what we caught. Not celebrity sort of hunting, to say it, because it's pretty uncool. But they went through the Depression. They'd done it tough. And, I was taught to fish and hunt as a kid, and whatever we caught, we ate. And sometimes you didn't get much. So I still love that environment, and, I guess the ability to read nature, read your stock, and do that. Sure, it's nice to have a nice new tractor with a GPS in it, but that excites the young kids. But to me, it's still the animals, if you see those doing well. And when you get your farm through a storm like we had the last 2 nights, we lost trees, we lost fences, but, we didn't lose any cattle. And all the cattle are, sun shining today, and they're all back happy again. So, it's the getting through crisis is what I love. Like, we've had fires, we've had floods and that, and I guess that's where my skills are, managing through a crisis. So. And that's the stuff people don't see, And it's the community that gets everyone through those things. We've had politicians, we've had every Prime Minister that's ever been through here when it's election time, because we're a big employer with lots of things, but they're not the people who'll be there on Friday night when a pump goes down or a truck breaks down and we've got to deliver milk in to somewhere, or got to put cheese on a plane to get it to a market. Those celebrities or politicians won't be the ones that'll be helping you getting it done. It'll be the local electrician or the truck driver or whatever that'll be, giving up his Friday night to help you.
The Bennett family have been farming here since 1908, starting with a few sheep, some veggie plots and a herd of dairy cows. Through vision, determination, innovation and strong values, the family has become a key regional business for Northern Tasmania, showcasing the very best in animal welfare, land management and community engagement. Paul Bennett is farming for the future. This is The Producers, a Deep in the Weeds production. I'm Dani Valent. Stay tuned as we talk to some of Australia's best farmers, makers and growers. Follow us on Instagram at Producers Podcast or contact us via deepintheweeds.com.au.